Welcome everyone, this is Mindy Eggen, and today I'm going to share a card project featuring the Caribbean Life and Caribbean Dreams set from Altenew. This video is part of a video hop celebrating the August 2023 release from Altenew. I will have information down below about the giveaway and a link to the next person in the hop, so be sure to check that out in the video description below. I'm going to be starting with the Caribbean Life Layering Stencil. So this one immediately drew my attention. I love these inserts that show how it is supposed to layer up and what it's going to look like for the end result. So I have a piece of white cardstock that I cut to about 6 by 6 inches, and I'm going to put the first layer of the stencil over my cardstock. Now you're going to see off on the left-hand side, I already had done one, but I put my water way too high. So I use that as an example, but I'm going to be using these same colors that I did in that example. After I placed the stencil over the cardstock, I'm going to hold it in place with some Post-it tape. And the first layer of the stencil is the most open area. And I'm using a large flat blending brush to ink on the Dewdrop ink, which is the lightest color in the Sweet Dreams ink collection. Then I'm going to bring in layer 2. You can see it's already inky. I didn't even bother cleaning it because I was using the same colors, but there are some etched lines that you can line up with your previous layer. That's going to help you line your stencils up. This color is Aqualicious. It is the second color in the Sweet Dreams collection. And I just lightly went over that. I didn't even make sure to fill in the entire open areas. I kind of wanted it to be a little scattered. Then I moved my stencil up, kind of lined up those etched lines once again, and this time I'm going to bring in Teal Cave. So this is one of the reasons I really love these Altenew ink collections, because they have 4 different shades in that one collection. This layering stencil also includes a layer for the sand. So I lined those edges up, and for the sand, I am going to be using pink sand. Now these next colors that I'll be using for the sand are from the Woodland Escape collection. You don't actually end up seeing it with my final design, but I still ink blended it because I just wasn't quite sure at the time how I was going to arrange my card front. Now with this stencil as well, there's that little line you can see there, and that's going to give us kind of the edge of our sand. Where the water is meeting the sand, it kind of darkens the sand a little bit. So for that one, I used Toasted Mauve. In this stencil set, you're also getting clouds, which I love blending on clouds. I love when I have layering stencils for clouds in general. So for the first open layer, which the open layer of the clouds or the first layer is on the left-hand side, and I'm doing this in Water Hyacinth, which is from the Blue Mountains collection. So I did one on the left-hand side and one on the right-hand side of the card, and then I shifted my stencil over to the right-hand side of the stencil and lightly ink blending on that same color over the top. So I went really light-handed the first time, came in a little heavier-handed on that second layer. I didn't want to go any darker than this color. Then I just took some Post-it tape and I am going to mask off where the water is. I didn't want my background to be stark white. I wanted to have a little bit of color. So I'm using the leftover ink on my blending brush and blending from the Post-it tape up. I decided I wanted to create a window scene. So I'm kind of figuring out where this oval die is going to line up with this size. Once I kind of knew about where that would be on my card front that I ink blended, I'm going to die cut this oval from a piece of white cardstock measuring 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now I took this window piece that I die cut, and what I'm doing is just placing pencil marks underneath because I have this large open area and I wanted to make sure that I'm getting exactly the part of the scene that I wanted. So I added little tick marks with a pencil, and then I took that over to my paper trimmer and just trimmed that off. I already knew that I was going to add foam tape behind my window panel, and my ink blended or stenciled panel is a little shorter. So I added tape runner behind that and I placed that onto an A2 side folding card base. That way, when I do attach my window panel with the foam tape, it's all going to stick to the card front and not on my work surface. Then I flipped my window panel over and I cut down some thin pieces of the Altenew foam tape. I'm going to remove the backing of that and place that over the front of my card. Now I have this beautiful scene for the front of my card. There is also a die set that coordinates beautifully with this. This is the Caribbean Dreams. Now, there's some really great elements in here. There is a sailing boat, a lighthouse, but I really loved these dolphins. So I'm going to actually take the dolphins and die cut them from white cardstock. I believe there are layers in this set that would die cut out different darker colors of cardstock to layer your dolphins, but I decided to go for just an ink blended look. So once again, I brought out that water hyacinth color, and using a small blending brush, I'm going to ink blend my dolphins. Now this is a beautiful color. It looked really good with my card front, but I did think it needed a little bit more contrast for my background. So I have a smaller blending brush that already had some crystal violet ink on it. So I just used that leftover ink to add that to the backside of my dolphins, and that really helped make them pop. And I loved layering those two colors together. So I still have that lighter tone and then a darker tone on the very edge. The sentiment I'm going to use for my card comes from the Sweet Lilies bundle. This is from a Build-A-Garden set. I love the sentiments on here, and also some of these words have a coordinating die. So the word sending, sorry about my head, the word sending I had already stamped and die cut from a previous card making session. I put my card front in my Misty and lined up the smaller sentiments. So that's why I had to get my head in there. I had to really get over it and make sure that this sentiment was lined up. And then I stamped that in some jet black ink. Now I'm just being super careful because this panel is popped up. So you want to make sure you don't have any kind of leftover ink on your door, your Misty. So after I stamped my smaller sentiment down, I can add my larger sentiment there, just cutting some thin strips of foam tape to add to that and pop it up in the middle of my window. I'm also going to trim down some of that foam tape and add it behind my dolphins too. Now, as I'm finishing up this card, I do want to remind you this is part of a video hop, so that information about the huge giveaway that Altenew is having is listed down below in the video description, along with a link to the next person in the hop. Be sure to leave comments along the way, like the videos, and definitely leave a comment over on the Altenew video hop to be entered into the giveaway. So now I've just finished off my card with a couple clear dewdrop embellishments. That finishes off the card project. I love this beautiful, serene, and calming scene to go with this message. All of my supplies will be listed down below in the video description. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you again real soon.